Get ready. You're about to enter an amazing new world. Mysteries of the body, wonders of the mind, stories for your life. On the Pulse. Tonight, the sex organ you never thought you had.
I couldn't get it out of my head.
Chemical signals that attract a mate. Have they been bottled? She's part of an experiment to find out.
They were enthralled with me, like, oh my God.
Pigs, perfume, strange science, and a love potion, all in one story.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Nancy Snyderman. What if there were a scent you could spray on your skin that was guaranteed to attract the opposite sex? Not because it smelled great, but because of the biological signals it sent to another person. Sound like fantasy? Well, perhaps not. Science is finding out there may indeed be unconscious chemical signals that we humans have used all along. Bill Ritter looked at the possible links between sex and smell and discovered a series of truly amazing connections.
How about a movie?
Wow, what's that aftershave you're wearing?
Can someone's smell actually drive us into a sexual frenzy? For years, fragrance companies have tried to convince us that it can.
That's why we have to put instructions on self-defense in every package.
Well, scientists are now discovering that indeed we do often make sexual choices with our nose. And it's especially true for women.
It was going great, and then I got this whiff of his skin. But then there was something about this smell that was just like offensive, pungent.
I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't look at him after that.
Women are more likely to use their sense of smell to decide whether or not they'll actually go through with a sexual encounter.
Experimental psychologist Rachel Herz studies the complicated relationship between sex and smell at the Monell Chemical Senses Center in Philadelphia.
It's not so much that women are running across the room saying, "You smell great, let's get naked," but rather they're saying, "You don't smell right, I'm not going ahead with this."
And why that's true may have something to do with nothing less than the survival of our species. Look at this weird science. In Switzerland, women were asked to take a few whiffs of men's smelly t-shirts stuffed inside unmarked boxes. Now, the women had to rate how sexy or unpleasant each t-shirt smelled. And the scientists learned something amazing. The women's reactions suggested they could actually smell differences in the men's immune systems. Different women liked different t-shirts, and the ones they liked belonged to men whose immune systems were genetically different than theirs. Now, this might sound far-fetched, but we do know this kind of thing happens in the animal world. Mice, for example, have the ability to sniff out these same genetic differences.
Immune system genes control odors, and the different versions of the immune system genes give a different odor.
Biologist Wayne Potts of the University of Utah studies mice mating in this red light barn where the mice can't see him. What Potts often sees is female mice using their sense of smell to track down mates who have different immune systems than they do, purposely running away from home to find them. Now, this prevents inbreeding and gives their offspring a better chance of survival.
All right.
And it turns out this same protective mechanism may also work in humans. Here's the advantage of it. When parents have two very different kinds of immune systems, their children are born with a sort of combined immune system that can fight off a greater number of diseases.
Yeah.
And our noses seem to be the key to this. Remember, our t-shirt sniffing women were attracted to the smell of men with different immune systems from them, but repulsed by the smell of men with similar immune systems. Does that say that women can smell the men who might be, biologically speaking, the best mate for them?
Potentially. That's correct.
So before a woman takes a man as her lover, he's got to pass a smell test.
Got to pass the smell test. The effect is more to sort of last-ditch kind of protection before we went through with something that could end up being unsuccessful.
So one of the ironies here is that all of these expensive perfumes and colognes we buy to cover up our real body odors might also be covering up those smells we rely on in selecting a mate. Now, scientists are also discovering something else about how we select a mate. We might send out chemical signals that we cannot smell, signals that could carry a wide range of biological messages. Those signals are called pheromones. We know a lot about pheromones from the animal world. In animals and insects, this chemical command is irresistible. Watch this. When the glass rod is doused with pheromones from a female cockroach, the males go crazy and actually try to mate with the rod. But what about humans? Can we be controlled by these subconscious chemical commands?
Pheromones are one of nature's components designed to make sure we reproduce. I think that's its fundamental, exquisite design.
Biologist Winifred Cutler believes pheromones do influence our sexual attraction. But for those needing a biological boost, Cutler sells products she claims contain pheromones from her company called the Athena Institute in Chester Springs, Pennsylvania. She says her customers report dramatic results.
I have one guy who said to me, 5 times a year maybe we had sex. Since I've been using the pheromone straight, it's 5 times a week.
Winifred Cutler is not alone. All of these products now on the market, many of which are sold over the internet, claim they contain human pheromones, which, as you can see, have a guaranteed reaction. And what exactly is in them?
I don't know what other people are selling. I know our pheromone formula is a carefully guarded trade secret.
But other products are not so secretive, and some really do contain a chemical that is a sex pheromone. A sex pheromone for pigs, that is. This magic chemical is called androstenol. It's actually found in male pig slobber, and one sniff of it makes the sows freeze, ready for sex. Even a canned version of this pig pheromone has the same effect on the ladies. And it turns out androstenol is found in only one other animal. Us. It's in our underarm sweat, to be precise, which is why it's now sold as a sex pheromone for humans. But scientists have told us there's simply no proof a chemical has the same effect on humans as it does on pigs. And what about human pheromones? Well, up until now, there have only been tantalizing suggestions. For example, a study 20 years ago showed that women who work or live together, like these sorority sisters, often get their periods on the same day. Their menstrual cycles sync up.
What I concluded from that is that there was a possibility of human pheromones.
Now, psychology professor Martha McClintock of the University of Chicago, who conducted that original study, has done a new and groundbreaking experiment, just published in the science journal Nature.
This study, I think, really is the first definitive study that shows that humans have pheromones. We still need to know whether we use them on a regular basis, but they are there.
Here's what McClintock did. She took underarm sweat from women at different points in their ovulation cycles, and then she wiped it under the noses of female volunteers. The findings were dramatic. The sweat samples actually changed the length of the volunteers' ovulation cycles. In other words, says McClintock, the women's bodies were communicating through unconscious chemical commands. The first scientific proof that human pheromones exist. So I lie down, and what are you going to do to me? Dr. Luis Monteblanc of the University of Utah is among a growing number of scientists who believe humans have a separate organ hidden in our noses to detect pheromones. Monteblanc says you can see it right here in this special microscopic picture. It's this tiny pit called a VNO. Some scientists say we haven't used this organ in thousands of years, but Monteblanc said he could prove that mine worked.
Again, if you feel any discomfort, please let me know.
You'll be the first I tell.
Very good.
And when he puffed a chemical that he called a pheromone into my VNO, the VNO registered a response.
We have a beautiful effect here.
Now, if we really do communicate through pheromones, then we have a sixth sense that we've ignored for centuries, a kind of sex organ in our nose. But does that mean pheromone products can deliver on their promises?
We're not as simple as a cockroach. It's not the case that we're going to have a single molecule that's going to compel us to cross the room.
But skeptics don't deter the pheromone marketers. Winifred Cutler, for example, has no doubt her product works. And she's even published her own study, which she says proves her claims. Cutler also convinced me to try her product. Will I have any unwanted consequences from this?
Do you mind people finding you more attractive during the day?
No.
Then you won't have any unwanted consequences.
Okay. We couldn't resist conducting a little unscientific test ourselves. Our subjects? Two sets of twins from a place called Twins Restaurant in New York. Now, we had one twin in each pair wear Winifred Cutler's supposed pheromone product. The other got just plain witch hazel, but nobody knew what they received. After 3 weeks, we took our twins to a popular New York bar. Our ground rules? We had them secretly trade places throughout the evening so no one would know they were twins. And we told them they couldn't make the first move. The results astonished us.
I'd like to live out there, but...
The guys came out about even. Each had a handful of women start talking to them. But the women... Sherry, who got the witch hazel, had a slow start.
Sherry?
Sherry.
Like I had a Sherry?
Like Sherry.
But ended up being approached by 11 guys. Stacy,
I don't want to lose you in this crowd, so you better give me your phone number.
who wore the Cutler product, was chatted up by...
Wow.
You go.
That's deep.
Are you ready for this? 30 guys.
I'm no good for you. I should leave.
Nearly 3 times the number who approached Sherry, her identical twin.
People didn't even want to talk to me. And my sister got all the attention. It was incredible, truly.
But they were enthralled with me, like, oh my God.
Now, we don't really know how much of this reaction was because of the supposed pheromones, but what does seem safe to say, while science sorts all this out, when it comes to human sexual attraction, we're being led around by our noses more than we think. Now, you'll recall I was going to experiment with a supposed pheromone product. Well, I did for the last 7 weeks. Nancy, I've been splashing it on my face. Guess what? Nothing. Not any reaction.
It must have masked the irresistible you.
Yeah, something like that. Although I did see you looking at me a little strangely this morning.
Always. So, but how do you explain those twins in that bar then?
Well, we cannot deny what we saw, no question, which sort of symbolizes the current debate about pheromones, whether they exist and what effect they have on them.
I think the immune system stuff is fascinating.
It really was. Smelly T-shirts and all, but a word of warning for women who take birth control pills. Scientists say that the pill can mask women's ability to sniff out opposite immune systems. So if a woman mates with a guy, chooses a mate, while on the pill, and then goes off the pill, she could be in for something of a rude awakening.
Astonishing. And there's still a lot we haven't yet discovered about this.
Oh, we're going to be hearing about this for years.
Bill, thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. We'll be right back.